Ladies and gentlemen, you want to change your life. Start with how you treat yourself when no one's watching. That's where discipline begins, not in front of a crowd, not when the cameras are rolling, but in the silence of your room, when the alarm rings at 5 a.m. and your mind whispers, "Sleep 5 more minutes." What you say to yourself in that moment defines everything. Discipline starts with the promises you keep to yourself. That one sentence sounds simple, but it can change your entire life. Think about how many times you've said, "I'll wake up early tomorrow," or "I'll stop wasting time," or "This week I'll be focused." Now think how many times you broke that promise. Did the world fall apart? No. But something inside you chipped away your self-respect. People think discipline is about being strict. It's not. It's about self-respect. If you can't trust your own word, why should anyone else when you say, "I'll do it"? And don't your brain records that? It learns that your words are cheap, but when you say, "I'll do it," and you actually do it, even something small, your brain celebrates. It sees you as reliable. That's how confidence grows, not from compliments or achievements, but from integrity with yourself. Let's make it even simpler. Imagine your best friend always told you, "I'll meet you at 6," and never showed up. Eventually you'd stop trusting them. Now realize you've probably been that friend to yourself. Every time you say, "I'll study," but scroll instead. Every time you say no junk food and order pizza at midnight, you train yourself to expect failure. That's why your energy is low. You've let yourself down too many times. Want to reverse it? Start winning small. Not with grand gestures, but micro commitments. "I'll drink a glass of water in the morning." Do it. "I'll write one paragraph." Do it. "I'll walk for 5 minutes." Do it. These things sound too small to matter. But they're not about results, they're about rebuilding trust. You're showing your brain, "I say it, I do it," again and again. Soon something amazing happens. You start to believe in yourself again. Your mood changes. Your posture improves. You walk with more purpose. People around you notice, but more importantly, you notice. You feel different because you are different, not because of magic, because of discipline. And it all started by keeping one small promise to yourself. The problem is, we're always waiting for some big transformation. We want the six-pack, the dream job, the perfect life. But we're not willing to make our bed, to say no to sugar, to sit down and focus for 30 minutes. But that's where all change lives, in the tiny moments that nobody claps for. And here's the truth most people run from. The more you break promises to yourself, the more anxious, tired, and unmotivated you feel. Because deep down, your soul knows you're capable of more, and you're wasting it. That gap between who you are and who you could be, that's where all the guilt lies. So close the gap, slowly, gently, but firmly. Start with one promise today, keep it, then do it again tomorrow. Make your word strong again, let it carry weight. Be someone you can count on, because when you become that person, no goal feels impossible. And no one can take that from you, not failure, not rejection, not even fear. Discipline gives you freedom, and it all begins with the quiet decision to do exactly what you said you would. Success isn't about talent, it's about habits. This is the truth nobody wants to accept because talent feels special. It makes failure easier to excuse. Maybe I'm just not good enough. We tell ourselves, as if some people were born with a secret ingredient the rest of us missed. But look closer at anyone you admire, the ones with the titles, the confidence, the life you dream about, and you'll see they weren't necessarily the most talented. They were just the ones who showed up every day, even when no one believed in them. Talent gives you a head start, maybe, but habits decide whether you finish the race. You don't stay fit because you have good genes. You stay fit because you show up to the gym even on the days your body says no. You don't become wise because you were born smarter. You become wise because you read, reflect, listen, and learn. You don't build a strong business because you're lucky. You build it because you work while others sleep. You prepare while others guess. You stay when others quit. And all of that comes from habits, not talent. We've been sold a lie that the people at the top are just built differently, that their discipline comes from motivation, or that they have more energy than us. But in reality, they're tired too. They're bored too. They're frustrated too. They just don't let those feelings decide their future. They don't need to feel inspired to do the work. They've trained their mind to act anyway. That's what habit does. It removes the decision. It becomes automatic. Brushing your teeth isn't something you debate every night. You just do it because it's wired in. Imagine building that kind of automatic behavior for working hard, eating well, showing up on time, or thinking positively. The people who make it far don't live differently by accident. They build systems around them, morning routines, night routines, to-do lists, calendars, reminders, not because they're weak, but because they're human. They don't leave success to chance. They design their day like an architect designs a building, carefully, precisely, with purpose. And that's where most people fail. They rely on how they feel, not on what they've planned. Your habits are like quiet votes you cast for the person you're becoming. Every healthy meal is a vote. Every hour of focus is a vote. Every time you resist the urge to quit, it counts. And slowly, without even realizing it, you shift. You begin to change, not dramatically, but deeply. You speak differently, you walk differently. You expect more from yourself, not because someone told you to, but because you've earned it. The truth is, talent is random, it's out of your control, but habits are yours, you choose them. You practice them, you build them, and when life gets messy, when emotions come, when stress rises, when uncertainty knocks, habits are what hold you steady. They're your anchor, they keep you from drifting into laziness, confusion, or chaos. Most people think they need motivation to change. What they really need is a schedule, something simple, something repeatable. Wake up, move, eat well. Focus, sleep, repeat. It's not exciting, but it works, and the more you repeat it, the stronger it gets. Like a muscle, habit grows with use. You don't need to be gifted. You need to be consistent, show up. Do the work, don't wait to feel ready, just act. Because the results that change your life never come from a single big moment. They come from hundreds of small choices made when no one's watching. That's what builds something great. Not magic, not luck, just habit, quiet, boring, powerful habit. Excuses destroy your self-respect. Every time you tell yourself a lie to avoid taking responsibility, a small part of you knows the truth. And that part quietly loses trust in you. You might not notice it the first few times. You might even laugh it off. I was tired. It was a bad day. I'll start next week. These sound harmless, but they stack up. And soon you start believing your own lies. That is how you lose control of your life, not in one big failure, but in 1,000 silent excuses that tell you it's okay to stay the same. People think excuses are about avoiding pain, but what they really do is delay growth. When you blame the situation, the people around you, the system, the weather, your upbringing, what you're really saying is, I'm not in control. And if you're not in control, then you're powerless. And if you're powerless, how will you ever change anything? Owning your choices, even your mistakes, gives you back your power. You can't fix what you don't claim. Excuses feel safe, but they keep you stuck. There's always going to be a reason not to do something. The timing won't be perfect. You'll feel tired. Someone else will have it easier. The world will be unfair. But those who grow, who rise, who become unshakable, they don't wait for perfect, they move through the mess. They look their excuses in the eye and say, not today. Because they understand something most people don't. Every excuse is a story, and every story has the power to shape your identity. If you keep telling the story that you're unlucky, that you're not good enough, that you don't have time, you'll live that story. Your brain listens, your body follows, and before long, your whole life becomes the excuse. It's not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being honest. When you skip a task, don't say I didn't have time. Say it wasn't important enough for me today. That might sting, but it's real. And real is the only place change begins. When you admit that your habits are a result of your choices, not your circumstances, you open the door to growth. You can't change the weather, you can't change your past, but you can change your actions today, and that's where freedom begins, not in blaming, but in owning. The most disciplined people are not the ones who never make excuses, they're the ones who notice them quickly and replace them with truth. They've trained their mind to catch the lie before it becomes a belief. When their brain says, you can't do this, they ask, is that really true? And if it's not, they act anyway. This isn't motivation. This is mental discipline. A quiet war against the stories that keep you small. Excuses are clever. They wear many masks. They sound like protection. They sound like logic. They even sound like self-care. But deep down, they're a refusal to try, and trying is where all progress begins. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stop running, stop hiding behind explanations, start taking action, even if it's messy, even if it's slow, even if it scares you, because nothing will change until you stop defending your limitations. The more excuses you allow, the more permission you give yourself to fail quietly. And that's dangerous. Not because failure is bad, but because silent failure, the kind wrapped in stories and delays, is the one you don't recover from. It becomes your pattern, and patterns shape your life, so challenge the pattern, interrupt it, ask better questions. Replace excuses with action, tiny action, if that's all you've got, but make it real, make it honest. That's where discipline grows. Not in grand gestures, but in those private moments when you choose honesty over comfort. When you say, this was on me, and then, without drama, you do better next time. Discipline brings long-term freedom, not restriction. Most people misunderstand this completely. They hear the word discipline and think of rules, control, punishment. They think it means living a boring life, saying no to fun, locking yourself into routines while everyone else enjoys their freedom. But they do not see the full picture. What looks like restriction in the short term becomes real power in the long run. Because true freedom does not mean doing whatever you want, whenever you want. True freedom is having choices. And choices only come when you've earned control over your time, your energy, and your mind. Think about someone who wakes up late every day, eats without thinking, scrolls for hours, skips their priorities, and says yes to every distraction. On the outside, they look free. They're doing what they feel like in the moment, but in reality, they're a slave to their impulses. Their phone tells them when to look. Their mood tells them whether to work or not. Their body decides what to eat. That is not freedom. That is chaos disguised as comfort, and it leads to a life of regret, where you're always reacting and never creating. Now look at someone who sets an alarm, plans their day, chooses their food wisely, protects their time, and says no when needed. It might look strict, but they are in control. They are deciding, not drifting. And that kind of control builds freedom, freedom to feel healthy, to finish tasks, to enjoy rest without guilt, to say yes to big opportunities because they're not buried in little problems. Their structure gives them space, their routine gives them peace. That is the freedom discipline creates. We live in a world that sells shortcuts. Lose weight without changing your diet, get rich with no effort. Be successful without waking up early. But here's what they don't tell you. Shortcuts steal your freedom. They give you a taste of something you haven't earned, and then they trap you. Because what you gain without effort, you lose without warning. You didn't build the foundation, so it doesn't last. But when you earn something with discipline, it stays. It becomes part of who you are. You can rely on it because it came from within. Discipline is also about self-respect. It's telling yourself, I am worth the effort. It's refusing to live on autopilot. It's choosing to grow even when no one's watching. That quiet power builds a life that is solid, not shaky. When challenges come, and they will, the disciplined person doesn't panic. They adjust, they adapt because they've trained for this. They've already faced discomfort by choice, so they don't fall apart when it arrives uninvited. It's easy to say yes to everything that feels good now, but every yes has a hidden no. Say yes to late nights, and you say no to clear mornings. Say yes to junk food, and you say no to energy. Say yes to scrolling, and you say no to learning. Discipline helps you flip that. It helps you say no in the moment, so you can say yes to something bigger later. It's a trade, temporary control for permanent freedom. And it is always worth it. Freedom is not found in laziness, it is found in mastery, and mastery only comes through repetition, structure, patience. You don't master your craft, your health, your mind by accident. You do it through discipline. And with that discipline, you gain something priceless, the ability to direct your life instead of being dragged by it. You move from reaction to intention, from chaos to clarity, from regret to purpose. Discipline is not the prison. It is the key. It opens doors that comfort keeps locked. It creates a version of you that is not dependent on the world being easy. A version that is free, not because life is perfect, but because you are prepared. Motivation fades, discipline stays. Everyone loves the feeling of motivation, that rush of energy when you hear an inspiring story, watch a powerful video, or set a big goal. For a moment, everything feels possible. You make plans, you set alarms, you feel unstoppable, but then life happens. You get tired, the excitement wears off, the weather changes, you get distracted. Suddenly, the fire that felt so strong becomes a flicker. And without discipline, that flicker disappears. Motivation is emotional. It depends on your mood, your energy, your environment. And because emotions shift constantly, motivation is unreliable. It might show up when you least expect it, but it might also disappear when you need it most. That is why people start strong and finish weak. They're depending on a feeling instead of building a system. But feelings are not a strategy. You cannot build a life on inspiration alone. You build it on consistency, on the decision to show up, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is what takes over when motivation fails. It is the quiet voice that says, do it anyway. It is the reason the book gets written, the weight gets lost, the business gets built. Not because someone felt motivated every day, but because they made a promise to themselves and kept it. Discipline doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't care about mood. It doesn't argue. It just acts, and that's what makes it powerful. Think about the people who reach the top of any field, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, leaders. Do you think they wake up every day excited to train, to work, to focus? No, but they've built habits so strong that even on the worst days, they still show up. That's the difference. Not more talent, not better luck, just more discipline. A stronger commitment to the process, not just the outcome. The problem is most people treat discipline like a punishment. They think it's only for strict people or high achievers. But discipline is a form of care. It is what you give yourself when you know you deserve better. It is how you protect your goals from your excuses. It is how you build a life that works, even when you don't feel like working. When you depend on motivation, your life becomes unpredictable. One day you're productive, the next you're lost. One week you're focused, the next you're scrolling for hours. That cycle leaves you tired, frustrated, and disappointed. But when you choose discipline, your days become steady. You don't need to feel amazing to do meaningful work. You just need to decide that showing up matters more than how you feel. The truth is, you won't always want to do the right thing. There will be days when your bed feels warmer than your goals, when comfort feels more attractive than growth, but those are the days that shape your future. Anyone can work hard when it's easy. The real test is who you are when it's not, and the answer is found in your discipline, not your motivation. The beauty of discipline is that it builds momentum. The more you show up, the more progress you make. The more progress you make, the more confidence you build, and that confidence becomes your fuel. Not temporary excitement, but deep belief in your ability to keep going. Over time, you start to trust yourself. You become the kind of person who does what they say, not because they always want to, but because they've learned how to act beyond emotion. Motivation is the spark, but discipline is the engine. It keeps you going when the fire fades. It moves you forward when nothing else does. And while motivation may come and go, discipline will always wait for you to return. It doesn't care how many times you've stopped. It only asks that you start again, quietly, simply, daily, because that is where real strength is built, not in the bursts, but in the steady, invisible effort that never quits. Billionaire mindset means saying no to comfort, not because comfort is evil, but because comfort is a trap. It feels good in the moment, but costs you everything later. Comfort is the reason people settle, the reason they stop growing, the reason they watch others succeed while they stay stuck. The mindset of someone who builds something massive isn't based on doing what feels nice. It's built on the ability to delay pleasure, to say no to things that give quick relief, and to choose what's hard when it leads somewhere better. Most people want big results without giving up small comforts. They want success but won't get up early. They want clarity but won't put down their phone. They want health but won't stop eating junk. They want money but won't do the boring work. They don't realize that comfort is always asking for something in return, and what it takes is your future. It takes your dreams, your confidence, your progress, slowly, silently, without warning. The billionaire mindset sees comfort as the enemy of potential. Saying no to comfort is not about punishing yourself. It's about choosing alignment, choosing to live like your future matters more than your mood. It means understanding that easy is not the same as good. In fact, most of the things that are good for you are hard. Waking up early is hard, staying focused is hard, having discipline in conversations is hard, but hard things build strong people. And strong people build strong lives. When you look at someone who has built something lasting, what you're really seeing is their ability to say no. No to sleeping in, no to excuses, no to distractions, no to comfort. They've trained themselves to resist the urge to give in. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they know where the path leads. Short-term comfort leads to long-term pain. But short-term sacrifice often leads to long-term freedom. That's the equation the world keeps hiding. We are told to chase ease, to make everything convenient, and while that might sell well, it doesn't build anything worth having. Real growth lives in discomfort. It lives in the tension of choosing the hard path when the easy one is open. It lives in the quiet choices nobody sees, turning off the TV to study, walking away from gossip, staying in on a Friday night to work on your dream. These moments might feel lonely, but they are where your life is being built. The people who achieve rare results are not superhuman. They just have different priorities. They don't worship comfort. They value progress more than pleasure. They know that the couch will always feel more inviting than the gym, that scrolling will always feel easier than thinking, that fitting in will always feel safer than standing out, but they choose the uncomfortable thing anyway. Because their eyes are on the future, not the moment. You cannot live like everyone else and expect to get what few people have. That means saying no more than yes, no to drama, no to complaining, no to waiting until you feel ready. The billionaire mindset is ruthless about energy. It doesn't spend time on things that lead nowhere. It doesn't entertain habits that bring regret. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear. Comfort will whisper, you deserve a break, even when you haven't earned it. It will convince you that you're fine even when you're stuck. And if you listen to it for too long, you forget what growth feels like. The real reward doesn't come from making life easier. It comes from making yourself stronger. And that happens when you stretch, when you sweat, when you struggle. Every time you say no to comfort, you say yes to strength. Every time you choose the hard thing, you build a little more power. That is how people become unstoppable, not through luck, not through gifts, through discipline built in discomfort, over time, in silence. Consistency beats intensity. That's something most people don't want to hear because intensity feels exciting. It feels productive. You wake up one day full of energy and you decide to change everything. You write down 20 goals, set alarms, clean your space, and work for 5 hours straight. For a moment, you feel powerful, but then the next day comes and your energy drops. You're tired, distracted, busy. That 5-hour effort turns into 0. And by the end of the week, you're back where you started, maybe even worse. Because now, on top of everything, you feel like you've failed. This is the trap of intensity. It promises fast results, but it rarely delivers lasting change. It's like sprinting at the start of a marathon. Impressive for a moment, but useless if you can't keep going. Consistency, on the other hand, is not flashy. It's not loud. It doesn't come with applause, but it is what builds real progress. Not because the effort is big, but because it doesn't stop. It shows up every day, even on the boring days, even on the tired days, even when nothing seems to be working. Think about water cutting through rock. It doesn't happen in one powerful burst. It happens drip by drip over time. The same is true with your goals. You don't build a strong body by working out for 6 hours once a month. You build it by showing up for 30 minutes every day. You don't master a skill by practicing intensely for one weekend. You master it by putting in the reps over and over. The people who succeed are not always the most talented or the most motivated. They are the ones who keep showing up long after others have stopped. Consistency builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through, your brain gets the message, I can rely on myself. That quiet confidence grows, and with it, your standards rise. You start expecting more from yourself. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop chasing quick wins. You begin to understand that small steps done daily are more powerful than big leaps taken randomly. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is that they'll start when they feel ready. But readiness is a myth. You're never fully ready. There's always something else to learn, to fix, to wait for. The key is to start anyway and stay consistent. That's how you build momentum. And momentum, once created, works in your favor. It makes hard things easier. It turns discipline into habit. It takes willpower and turns it into a rhythm. Consistency also makes failure less scary. When you rely on intensity, one missed day feels like a disaster. But when you're consistent, you see it for what it is, just one day. You don't panic, you don't quit, you adjust and continue. That mindset protects your progress. It keeps you from starting over every few weeks. It teaches you that progress isn't linear, but it's always possible. People overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. That's because they chase intensity, but a little effort done repeatedly adds up. 10 pages a day is over 3,000 pages a year. 10 minutes of practice a day is 60 hours by the end of the year. Those numbers matter, not because they're impressive, but because they're consistent. Because they compound. Because they grow quietly while others are still waiting for the perfect moment. The ones who win are not the ones who sprint the hardest. They're the ones who stay in the race the longest, who keep walking when others stop, who keep building when others get bored. That's the power of consistency. It's slow, steady, and often invisible, but it's also unstoppable, because when you commit to showing up every day, even in a small way, you are rewriting your future without even realizing it. Your future is hiding inside your daily routine, not in some distant plan, not in a someday dream, but in the small decisions you make every single day. People often search for big answers, dramatic changes, or life-changing breakthroughs, but they overlook the ordinary patterns that shape their entire life. The way you wake up, what you think about first, how you spend your first hour, how often you get distracted, how you speak to yourself, what you prioritize when no one is watching. These aren't just habits, they're directions. They're quietly leading you toward a version of yourself that you are either building or breaking. Most people want a different future without changing their present. They hope tomorrow will look better while today stays the same. But life doesn't work like that. You don't suddenly wake up successful, peaceful, healthy, or confident. You build it layer by layer, moment by moment. The future is not created by wishful thinking. It is created by intentional living. And intentional living means paying attention to what you do consistently, because what you do consistently is who you become. Your routine is not just a schedule, it's a statement of your values. If your mornings are filled with chaos and rushing, it says something about how much you respect your time. If your evenings are spent mindlessly consuming content, it says something about what you prioritize. You can't expect to feel powerful while living powerlessly. You can't expect clarity while drowning in distraction. You can't expect progress while repeating the same unproductive cycle. If you want a new outcome, you need new input. And that input is built into your routine. The beautiful thing about routines is that they give you control. When everything around you feels unpredictable, your routine can anchor you. It becomes a place of stability in a world that constantly changes. And with that stability, you gain strength, you gain clarity. You begin to see your time not as something to kill, but as something to build with. That shift alone can change everything. Most people underestimate the power of simple actions. 5 minutes of planning your day, 10 minutes of reflection before bed, one healthy meal, one honest conversation, 1 hour without your phone. These don't feel like much, they're not glamorous, no one claps when you do them, but over time they compound. They sharpen your mind, they build your resilience, they clean the clutter inside you, and slowly they bring you closer to the life you want without you even noticing. Your future doesn't need more big promises. It needs more quiet discipline, less talking, more doing, less reacting, more designing, because the life you're heading toward is not decided by fate, luck, or chance. It's being built in your kitchen, your workspace, your phone habits, your conversations, your thoughts. That means every day is a chance to move toward or away from the future you desire, and the distance between where you are and where you want to be is measured in your routines. The danger of ignoring your routine is that it makes you feel like nothing's wrong while everything is drifting. You go through your day thinking it's just one lazy morning, one skipped task, one unplanned evening. But days become weeks, weeks become months, and months build your life. What feels harmless today becomes regret tomorrow. Not because you failed once, but because you didn't pay attention to the pattern. You don't need a perfect routine. You just need one that aligns with your purpose, one that protects your focus, supports your health, challenges your mind, and honors your time. The kind of routine that makes you proud when no one's watching, because in the end, your results are not based on what you hope for. They're based on what you do daily. And if you want a powerful future, it starts by mastering an ordinary day.